Okay, does it show? I think we're
Yes, we're
good.
recording. We're
Yes.
recording.
Okay. All right. So thank you, Tabby. So tonight we're talking about, I just lost it, navigating social isolation and mental health support. And yeah, if you want to maybe just like introduce yourself and then get started.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
So
amazing.
my name is Tabitha, and I kind of classify myself as an expert in the social isolation department. I was diagnosed with PTSD just over 3 years ago now, and throughout that journey, there has been a lot of coping with social isolation. Not the best coping mechanism. However, right now it's actually been a blessing for me because I already knew a lot of this tricks and tips to survive kind of now that I literally have to be isolated from family and friends. I'm actually able to put a lot of that into play that I've been using over the last few years to help myself cope with the need to social isolate when things are tough on my mental health journey. So Amy asked me if I would like to share my expertise with everyone, and I thought it was a great idea because this is a really hard time for everybody, especially those extroverts out there. It's definitely difficult, and we'll kind of just dive deep into what I use in my routine. Today's just super not really mental health specific. It's kind of for everybody, ways in which you can cope. And tomorrow night we'll be getting into more of like the mental health routines, specific type things. So if you're good to go, or
Yeah, that sounds
well,
awesome.
all right, so tonight I wanted to kind of give you guys some tips and tricks. So the first thing for me is routine. So routine is huge for everybody. Our children, they generally thrive off routine, and when their routine is messed up, they really struggle. And it's not really that different for adults. We really actually function very well on routine, and when things are all in chaos, it makes it really difficult. So one of the biggest tips I can give you during this time is try and maintain some semblance of the routine you had before this happened. So a good example that I was given, obviously my routine is very different because I was already social isolating before this happened, so there wasn't big changes for me. But a big tip that I got was to actually, one of the girls said her daughter usually walks to school in the morning. So at that time of day, they get up and they go for a walk so that she still feels like they're getting that walk in. So it's kind of keeping that routine of school, even though she's not going to school. And then they go home and they do their schoolwork. So it kind of allows her that structure that she doesn't really have in that time. So it's finding little bits and pieces of your routine that existed before this that you really can continue or kind of like makeshift in your own homes. And for either your kids or yourself or anybody like that, routine is amazing. Things like not staying in bed all day, getting up at the same time that you normally get up, going to bed at the same time that you normally go to bed, not kind of looking at this like a long-term vacation, because even after vacation we really start to crave that routine that we had in our jobs or normal life with kids at school and things like that. So the other part of that is sticking to the things that really are good for you in your routine. So things for me, just quickly, like some of the supplements that I take and the oils that I use in the diffusing, still maintaining some of my appointments that I'm able to maintain through either video chat or telephone. Those are all things that are really beneficial for keeping a routine in place. Whatever you can do to maintain your routine is really going to be a huge help. The next one that it's taken me a long time to kind of get there with this one, food and your water intake. You don't realize how important food and water is to you during and all of this. For me specifically, I have noticed that when I go long periods of time without eating super healthy or making sure I get my vegetables and my water in, like it seems so simple and so easy. And the one thing that once, sometimes that mental health starts to take over, it's actually really difficult to maintain those eating habits. A lot of times you'll fall to the way of whatever's simple and quick. And even though you're at home all day, you're like, oh, I just don't feel like it. And there's a lot of I just don't feel like it during social isolation. So one tip I can say is continue with your meal planning. If you meal plan on the weekend for the week ahead, do that anyways, even though you may not be going anywhere. Meal planning is super important. You can use like Plan to Eat, keeps all your recipes in one place. If you kind of want more details on Plan to Eat, Amy's a good resource for that one. Amy's really good at meal planning. I'm not that great at it.
Me some time too. Yeah, it's a practice for sure.
And that's the thing is I'm still not very good at it. I'll be honest. Like it's hard, but for me, my focus isn't necessarily meal planning. It's just when I go to the grocery store, I buy healthy things so that I have healthy things in my house. And my focus is just making sure that I'm putting those healthy things in my body, and not, ordering pizza all the time or things like that. I mean, you still should enjoy food, enjoy what you eat, but everything in balance and moderation. And the more you fuel your body with healthy things, the better your body feels and the easier it is on your mind. So that's a big one. And it's also, when we're working, we have these eating routines and these eating habits. And sometimes, we can't maintain those at home, but maybe it's something that now you can look into. Amy has been doing a lot of work on learning about nutrition and the holistic approach. So I don't know if you want to add some stuff to that, Amy, or.
Yeah, I can add a couple things, mostly for like the meal planning thing that, like, for me, it works best to do it on Sundays. Like, that is usually the day that, like, in the afternoon, I spend like 3 hours or so, getting things ready, washing the produce just to have it like super easy to access, and making simple things like ahead of time, like whether it's like energy bite, like very like nutrient dense foods that are just really easy to snack on, and to eat for things like breakfast or snacks or things like that. But the other thing is, like, because it does take a lot of energy, like preparing food. Preparing food, like, it's simple, like it's a simple thing to do. It's not like really complex, but it does take a lot of energy. And I do find, like, when I don't do that, like when I don't take that time at least like once or twice a week to put that energy into making the food, it takes a lot more energy for me throughout each day. So, like, even though it takes me like 3 or 4 hours, and I'll just be like, Clark will be with Ellie and I'll have music going and I'll just like make like a huge dinner. Like, that's what I find the easiest, because Sunday, if we had like a nice big dinner, a lot of those leftovers go into lunch bowls, which is probably like my number one saving tip, is to make a huge meal, make it a huge meal on Sunday, and then just like put those roasted veggies into salads or quinoa or things like that. Because yeah, it takes a lot of energy, and sometimes don't have it during the week, like especially at the end of the day, to have energy to make supper or think about what I'm going to make. Like, I can't do it. I've tried, and it's very stressful. It causes me to feel very anxious because I'm like, what am I going to do? So anyway, it's like taking those pockets of energy. So maybe it's not Sunday, like maybe that's not the day that works best for everybody. Like, maybe it's like a Thursday night or something before you go into the weekend, to have foods that are like really easy to access when you're on the go. Not so much right now on the go, but just like very easy. You don't want to think about it on the weekend too. So I think the biggest thing is finding the pockets of energy. When you do have them, use that time to like try and do as many things as you can that like overlap, or if you're like using certain foods, to try and like get like 2 or 3 recipes done at the same time. And then that way, that saves me during the week when I like literally don't have any energy to put towards doing it. It's just like a huge relief that it's done. So yeah, that's more so for that, for meal prep.
I think it also gives you a sense of control when you
Yeah.
actually have, you're not, your brain isn't spinning trying to figure out what you're going to eat because
Mhm.
you've already pre-planned it. So it takes a lot of that stress and anxiety away if you're actually like preparing your meal prepping. And also like just having a general idea. It doesn't have to be specific, like, oh, I'm going to eat, I don't know, tacos. My mom had tacos for supper. When you eat tacos, um,
Cool.
on Monday, and on Tuesday I'm gonna eat fajitas, and Thursday, Wednesday I'm gonna have fish. And it doesn't have to be that specific, but if you kind of lump categories of food together, so
Mhm.
I don't eat a lot of meat, so for me it's a lot of plant-based stuff. But when I am gonna have fish, I know that maybe twice that week I'll have fish because I'll have 2 servings in one thing that I bought, and I'll cut it in half and then cook it at 2 separate times. And that kind of stuff takes um, a lot of that stress and anxiety away because you're actually in control of that part of your day rather than trying to figure out last minute what you want to eat. And so that's a big part of feeling like in, because right now most of us don't feel in control of anything because we don't really have a huge say on what we're doing, where we're doing it, and that kind of thing. And so finding these little pockets that we can use to feel that control is also a huge part of this. Like when you're isolating from things, especially when you have no control over that, in a mental health perspective, sometimes it feels better and it feels easier, but it's a slippery slope.
Mhm.
Whereas with this, it's very much enforced upon you. It's not, you don't really get a choice in this. And it's how we react to this choice and what we do in these times that's going to make a huge change. So the little things like meal prepping and that kind of stuff allows you to feel like you're actually have control over aspects of all of this, and it kind of takes away a lot of that extra stress because right now it's super stressful. There's a lot of uncertainty and there is a lot of difficulty, and we don't really know what's going on or where it's going to go from here. And that is really hard for the human brain, and
Mhm.
hence the eating really well. The better you eat, the more fuel your brain has. So it actually is easier for you to process things when you're eating healthy. When you're filling it full of junk, your brain gets, trust me, I know, your brain gets slow. It slows down and it's harder. Everything's harder. You don't have the energy to put into any of this. So that's a big thing I would say is, like if you can find little pockets to feel in control with things like sticking to routines and eating healthy and drinking water. Like drinking water, there is some religions out there that they think that's the end all be all of everything. They think it will heal all things. I was a medic, so I did see some of these practices, but I will say that the benefits they far outweigh the amount of bathroom breaks. And since you're at home right now, it's a good time to increase your water intake because you can go to the bathroom as many times as you want. Nobody cares.
True. It's good training.
Although, with the toilet paper craze, you might want to, no, I'm just kidding. Drink lots of water. Or you can come to my house. I'll give you some toilet paper because my dog seems to steal it and likes to chew on it. So we go through it a lot faster than normal, but we're okay with that. So I guess we can move on from there because we don't want to take too much of everybody's time either. The next thing I kind of wanted to talk about is fitness. So this all kind of goes together. You've got your routine going, and within that routine, you're prepping, healthy meals, you're ordering your groceries or going to the grocery store. I'll be honest, I like to go to the grocery store now because it's very quiet, it's very peaceful. I pick a time of day where there's not a lot of people, so I don't feel like I'm at increased risk, and I get to pick what I want to eat. And so it's another way for me to feel in control is because I get to pick my groceries. Just that little thing. So then we kind of roll into fitness. I really struggled with fitness, which actually kind of kept me more isolated because you're not taking care of your body And then that stems and it kind of rolls into the depressive side of things. It encourages your depression. It encourages you to not want to go out and do things. It encourages the lazy pushing the buttons on the TV. When you start adding fitness, a couple weeks before this started, I actually went to a gym and I got a personal trainer and I was like, all right, this has got to change. And I was thriving in that sense. Like I was feeling more energy. I was feeling so much better. I was in like the benefits of getting back into the gym and doing physical fitness was huge for me. And it only lasted like 2 or 3 weeks. And then we went into isolation. So I've been actually trying really hard to keep up with a fitness routine. And I'm noticing now the days that I don't do it are harder. And the days that I do it, I feel better. I feel like I have more energy. It's just all around. It also makes me drink more water because while I'm working out, I'm drinking water. Mm-hmm. There's tons of resources out there for fitness apps. Free things. I signed up. I got an on-demand bar room, which I've never tried bar classes before, and I'm loving them. So I got it's $10 a month for bar on demand, and it's
fantastic.
It's a new thing they're trying out of that studio, and so they're going to go up to $20 once they're fully up and running. But it stays at 10 for me because I got the founder's fee. So, like little things like that. And it doesn't have to cost money. YouTube has tons. Good Life, even if you're not a member, you can actually access a lot of their free programs for their members and things like that. The Peloton app, they do it like as 50 days. There's so much out there that are offering, increased free time, basically. That I really encourage people to go, even if it's just going for a walk, because you don't ever get any exercise, just go for a walk even, or do some yoga. My son does not enjoy exercising with mommy. He likes making mommy exercise, but I put on, Cosmic Kids Yoga, and he does like 1 or 2 of the videos because he gets really deep into it, and it feels good, and he's getting activity and he's getting movement. And I mean, we do other forms of activity. He's super active. But I find that sometimes when he's having a hard day because it's affecting him, if I put on this Cosmic Kids Yoga, it actually restructures his thinking, and it helps him to alleviate a lot of his stress. And so that's the one thing, like when you're doing fitness, you don't really realize how much you're actually releasing while you're doing it. That anxiety kind of like your body is working so hard to do all these other things. It's like forcing that anxiety away. It's forcing, and then, as I like to quote Legally Blonde, those endorphins get going. And then what do they say in Legally Blonde? She works out a lot and she gets endorphins, and endorphins make people happy, and happy people don't kill people. So it's like one of my favorite things because they're taught for those of you who've seen Legally Blonde, you can kind of remember it. Everyone always looks at me like I'm crazy, but she's, they're representing a murder suspect that said she didn't do it, and she's a fitness instructor. So, happy people, they don't kill people, which is kind of relevant right now because it's a hard time and people are fighting more and arguing and having difficulty communicating. And so it's another way to get that extra stress and that need to maybe lash out, but you don't know why. And so exercising can really give you that outlet. And it doesn't have to be anything hard. You don't even have to own equipment. Like I have a treadmill that I never use because I'm not allowed to run. So, but I have up to only 10 pounds weights. Like it doesn't have to be a lot. There's so many good body workouts out there that you don't need to spend money to do this. You just need to look a little bit and you'll find stuff for sure. Do you have anything to add to?
Yeah, and I think one of the big things is like finding something that if you can enjoy it,
yes,
it's so much easier to make it a habit. And like bring that little bit of joy as well, like with William doing like Cosmic Kids yoga, like because he enjoys it, like that's something that he enjoys doing, and he's moving his body. It doesn't have to be super hard or difficult or things like that, but yeah, incorporating a little bit of that joy is huge. It's huge. Like anything to like move your body and even celebrate your body, and like using kind of gratitude too
Yeah.
to help motivate, like when it's hard to be like, oh, like I that's just like, rather than picturing it as like one extra thing that we have to do, like it's another thing we get to do. Like we get to move our body, we get to sweat and like get stronger, or and yeah, so if you can find something that you like it doesn't have to be what everyone else is doing, like, and but if as long as you find something you enjoy, like it can be like dance classes on YouTube, or like even those F45 classes, like HIIT classes, like there's tons of those workouts for free on YouTube. And yeah, there really is something for everybody. But if you can have a chance to get outside even to do some of that, then you get like your vitamin D and fresh air. And
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
like when you're saying release that energy, I'm guilty for that too, because when I don't do it, and like running, like I like running because it makes me feel stronger and it makes me feel less crazy. Like I literally will feel like it, like if it's been a few days and I'm like feeling that, like the anxiety or like energy in my body, and I'll go for a run, sometimes I'll like literally be like moving my arms all around, because I can like it's just like this release. I have so much energy pumped up in my system that yeah, it's just, rather than, I shouldn't be waiting to feel like that to go for a run. I know that about myself, but
But it's a healthy outlet, which is, I guess, the whole take home for all of this is it's fitness is a healthy way to alleviate a lot of that built up stuff that sometimes you don't even realize you have. And regular activity is going to help kind of scale that back so there won't be as much of it. But like when I used to be able to run, I loved putting on like angry music sometimes and just like going for it. And now that I can't do that, I put on angry music and I dance around like an idiot, and I will never record myself doing it, but it's
but you
special.
know, yeah.
But it's that movement and it's just that release, and it feels so good. And the other thing that you mentioned, I mean, this isn't really fitness related, but getting outside, and just sometimes it's as simple as putting your bare feet in the grass and just feeling that, running your toes through the grass and having that nature and just calming yourself. Like there are studies out there that show walking barefoot in the grass has actually some very positive effects on the body that allow the body to release that negative energy. Mm-hmm. And so if you can just literally go into the backyard, and unfortunately people with apartments, you might look weird standing on the side by the sidewalk with your feet on the grass, but who cares?
Who cares?
We all look crazy.
At least times you get a pass for anything as long as you're taking care of yourself, I think.
Exactly. And then the other thing actually that I'm going to let Amy speak to, and she brought it up, is that attitude of gratitude. This part I'm still very much working on. I can put a positive spin on pretty much anything, but I forget to go back to that gratitude side of things, which sometimes positivity is super annoying and also infuriating. So attitude of gratitude is kind of a little bit different. And I think that it's something that like I really am trying to work towards. So I would love for Amy to kind of touch on that.
Yeah, I can definitely do that. I really need to like thank the kids the most, because like running the daycare, and when we were learning about like gratitude when they were little, like this blew my mind, because they, at the time that we introduced it, it was around Valentine's Day, and we were made like a gratitude tree, but they were like 18 months at the time, and a little bit younger, and one was a little bit older too. But we started to understand, or they started to understand the concept of gratitude by talking about what made our hearts happy. And we would like write down, at first they would like point to something that made their heart happy, or, and then when they started using their words and things like that, they would start to say things, and like it was very exciting, and we would like write down the one thing, like the thing that they would made their heart happy, and we'd put it on the tree. And then it just kind of evolved from there, but it was like almost instant mindset shift, like spending that little bit of time and thinking about what we were like grateful for, or what made our heart happy, like depending on how you ever you want to phrase it. It really puts you very present. So you kind of stop worrying about things like the stress from like thinking about what maybe you should have done before, or being worried about what you're going to be doing next. Or it really does bring you into a present state, and like move you into like a more positive frame of mind, because you can still be grateful and feel other emotions. And I think that was one thing, like doing the practice with the kids taught me the most, because being a positive person, like there is a very big difference between positive and being grateful. You're right, Tabby. And it's because I know for me personally, I struggled with, like, because I'm naturally a very positive person, but feeling like I couldn't be sad, or it was like I felt guilty for being sad, right? Because I was so grateful. I realized that there's so many things in my life that I was so grateful for, and I felt guilty for not feeling positive or not feeling really happy because of the things in my life that were grateful, even though there were things that like in my life at the time were making me very sad, and like making me feel like not pumped, right? But so it never being putting yourself in that state of gratitude and having that reflection allows you to be present, and even just recognizing where you are in emotional state. But yeah, it definitely helps shift your mindset. And I think how you start to look for those things too,
Yeah.
like once you start practicing like the things that you're grateful for, you just automatically start looking for them in your day, or you're like, oh, I want to, that's something that I'm going to be grateful for, or like tell Ellie, or so
Yeah.
yeah, it brings you present, but it does start you picking out those things.
And I think that that's important, because like when I say I can put a positive spin on anything, it doesn't mean I feel positive about it, but I can put a positive spin on it. I can explain the positive to you, and I can bring that positivity out of it, but it doesn't necessarily mean that that's how I'm feeling. But when I have gratitude, then I'm actually literally feeling a positive emotion. So positivity doesn't, someone that's super positive doesn't mean that internally they're always very positive. And so when you actually have that feeling of gratitude, it truly brings out those good feelings. And sometimes the feeling of gratitude is that for me, sometimes it's literally that I get to experience these negative emotions, because part of my journey was actually learning how to have emotions. So for me, sometimes when I'm super sad, I'm really grateful because I'm actually truly feeling, and I'm truly present in where I'm at. And that's a huge thing for me. I think that, being present, gratitude is what brings us to the present. And that kind of shifts a little bit into what my next point would be. Limiting your screen time, or especially negative social media. That is a huge one. That positivity and that gratitude, it can go down that rabbit hole real quick if you don't monitor the amount of negative social media that you are being exposed to, and you don't even realize it, or that just mundane scrolling and scrolling and scrolling because you have nothing better to do with your time, because you're stuck at home,
Mm-hmm.
Instead of reading a book, or, like I've been guilty of binge watching way too much Hallmark movies on YouTube. I love me some Hallmark movies. They're so bad, they're good. But, you know, just going down that rabbit hole of, you know, the YouTube video stops and the next one just starts playing. So you just keep watching and you keep watching. And all of a sudden, you know, an hour or 2 hours has gone by and you feel worse than you did when you started. A lot of that is based on the amount of overexposure that your brain is going through. And even though you don't feel like you're thinking, your brain is still trying to process all of the things that's going on, not only in your brain, but also on whatever you're watching. And so that can really alter how you feel. Like that having a positive outlook can be taken away just by all of the negativity that you see. So monitoring, or not monitoring, but at least trying to limit the amount of screen time, more specifically social media. However, you know, movies and TV shows and all of that, if you spend too much time in front of the screen, does have a negative effect on the brain. But really, sometimes it's okay to prioritize, no, not sometimes, all the time, it's okay to prioritize yourself. And sometimes that's as simple as unfollowing somebody, or, you know, keeping somebody, if, like for me, I have lots of family members that I prefer not to have us on Facebook, but, you know, it's not very nice to delete your family. So instead I just make it so that they don't show up on my news feed. So I don't have to see their negativity and I don't have to follow that negativity. And, you know, controlling that is a big part of something that will kind of help your day. And starting a day with gratitude instead of with your phone is also an extremely good way to start your day. You know, not rolling over, as Mel Robbins says, not rolling over and picking up your phone and checking your email and doing all that stuff. Taking 30 minutes in the morning to not connect on a device and just take that 30 minutes. And it doesn't have to be sitting down and writing a gratitude journal. It could be something as simple as having a coffee and reading a book, or doing your workout, but not rolling out of bed and grabbing that phone and checking Facebook and checking Instagram and checking your email and doing all that stuff. It's really going to make a difference for you if you don't do that. So that's me on my soapbox, but it's definitely been something that I've noticed. The more I cut back on it, the easier it is, the more relief my brain gets, I guess is the best way to put it. My brain really does crave a lot of slowness, and it needs that positivity and not the overstimulation. But on the flip side of that, because we are in social isolation, we do need to find ways to connect with people. So that's where screen time is going to come into play, whether it's, you know, watching a movie with a loved one on like Netflix, or there's all these games out there now that you can actually play with people, and you can do like a Zoom room, or apparently Skype now has conferences, and there's all these different social, like all these different platforms for actually connecting on a visual level with people and playing games together or doing your craft together. There's all the, my mom wants to start doing crafts with my son through FaceTime. You know, just virtually kind of, you could do a virtual workout with, you know, if you have a gym partner, find a time that works for both of you and do the same workout and video chat while you're doing it, and, you know, yell at each other, you know, one more, you can do it, all of that, like those positive reinforcements. But also, all of us introverts, I used to be a huge extrovert, but now I'm an introvert, remember our extroverted friends during social isolation, because they really struggle. They need that interaction and they need that human companionship. And so sometimes we get really happy about not being over inundated and not feeling forced to go out. But, you know, sometimes it is as simple as texting your friend and being like, hey, let's video chat, or how you doing, those kind of things. And then on the flip side, all of you extroverts out there that require a lot of time, like FaceTiming or all of that kind of stuff, because you need that connection. Remember your introverted friends, because they are being overwhelmed now with the amount of connection that people are doing. And now we're invading, you know, the living rooms of them are being invaded because everybody can show up on their computer now or their phone. And so we need to find that balance, obviously, with the screens and all of it, but finding ways to connect with the people that you care about and the people that you love. I know people that have meals together. One girl, her parents for Easter made their big normal Easter meal and packed up portions and dropped it off at all their kids' houses. And then they had like they all got online and ate their Easter dinner together. So, you know, like the porch drop-offs and then doing it together is still a really good way. Like my son did his Easter egg hunt with my mom through FaceTime. As my son says, on really hard days, doing something happy helps those hard days. And that's pretty profound for a 5-year-old.
He's so wise.
He's pretty wise sometimes. And, you know, Saturday was a really hard day for our family, and we were going to do my son's Easter hunt. And I told him, well, we're going to have to wait until they're ready. And so he did, and he was and then he says to me, you know, Mommy, it's a sad day, but we're going to do something happy on a sad day. And I was like, you're just the smartest thing ever. So, you know, sometimes it is something as simple as that. Doing something happy on a really hard day can make a huge difference. And finding that connection through music, you know, playlists, those kind of things. Doing stuff like this, taking a class with a friend, and then, you know, reading a book and having a book club, all of that kind of stuff is things that you can use to connect with people, but still respecting your own boundaries and not over inundating yourself with the need to feel like you have to show up all the time for everybody. So kind of respecting those boundaries both ways is a huge part of it. And, you know, music for me is a huge part of just coping in general. And so that's always been, you know, a way to connect for me is to, you know, pretend like I'm there and I'm rocking out, rocking out to the, you know, whoever I'm listening to, or, you know, whether it's country, heavy metal, my spectrum is very broad in that sense. That kind of stuff is really going to help. Obviously, as you guys know, Amy and I, we love our plant magic, you know, turning to my oils and, you know, talking about things like that with Amy and things like that as well. Different ways that people do that. That's also a way that I've connected. I'll kind of talk about that. That'll come in the tomorrow realm of things when I'm talking specifically to the mental health side of all of this. But the last thing that I really want to talk about, which is going to happen in a little while for all of us, is sleep. Sleep during this time is incredibly important. I mean, it's important all the time, don't get me wrong, but monitoring the way you sleep. So, you know, sleeping too much is not positive, and sleeping too little is not positive. So trying to maintain, that goes with the routine, going to bed at a similar time that you would if you were going to work, and getting up at a similar time. So still sleeping those same amount of hours, unless during work you weren't getting enough sleep, then maybe you can increase it a little bit and allow your body some rest and healing time, because sleep is going to help it's going to help you get through this, because you're going to have a different perspective and your brain will have the opportunity to process, you know, sometimes, because a lot of times you need your sleep to process, and you might not know that you're processing. It's where I do some of my best processing. Doesn't mean I get a good sleep, but I definitely do some good processing. So allowing yourself that opportunity to actually have good sleep is the last thing that I kind of really want to like hammer home, because without good sleep, your day is shot. It's hard to function and show up in a positive way when you're so tired you don't want to do anything. So, and not doing anything is just going to stem your disdain for social isolation, because it's not fueling anything in your body, and it's also going to make post social isolation very difficult for you, because you're now so used to this world that is a very deep, dark rabbit hole if you embrace it too much. So those are my ways of kind of what I've been doing for the last several years to manage my social isolation without it controlling my life too much. Do you have anything to add, Amy?
I don't know. You touched on a lot of them. The only thing I wrote down a few things when you were talking, and the thing about like routines, that was something I learned like when I started having the daycare and when I started being home a lot more was um it seemed like it was like at first it was a bit hard to get into, but what a difference it makes too. Like I think especially if you have kids, because it was like you say you put so much energy into it. It was a lot less like, okay, now we're gonna do this, and it's like a lot of like forcing of like what is next. Where like once we got into like a routine and they understood like what was next, where it's like we'll sit down and like have circle time. We'll play, and then we'll have circle time, and then we'll have snack, and then we'll go outside. And like once we started to like find the rhythm and the flow, like of work worked well, right? Like, but once we started to get in the routine, it's not like I was corralling kids and like it was like a struggle to get to like each point anymore, because it was just a part of the routine. They expected it, they knew what was coming, and so we just kind of were able to flow throughout the day way more like when we have routine and when we follow the routine. And yeah, it can just save so much energy. And yeah, so love that bit about the routines. And um yeah, sleep is a big one, because it doesn't even matter like you can eat all the kale in the world, but like if you don't let your body like rest and like recover during that time, then yeah, it doesn't like it's important, right? It is super important what we're eating, but it doesn't replace sleep in any way. And yeah, you talked, I think you did a very good job, Tabby. That's
Well, thank you.
yeah, those are all things that have that me too. And some of these things that I'm like the fitness thing, like I know that I need to get more into routine. And yeah, you're right. It makes all these things make such a positive difference. And with the water, I do find that like when I put a couple drops of like lemon or grapefruit, I drink it more, because it's just like it I can taste it. So I find that I do drink more water. So if someone's struggling with drinking water, just like keep adding a little bit in as you go. Like don't feel like you have to drink like your body weight in ounces of water just in like a day. Like start with like what you are drinking, like what is normal, and then try and build up from there. And yeah, if you can aim for like half your body weight in ounces of water, then that's ideal. And if you end up wanting more, like be your own judge of that. Like you'll notice how you feel. And but yeah, huge for that, for mental clarity. And
Yes.
yeah, there's so many health benefits of making with your body being hydrated. So yeah, but otherwise I think it's great. I don't really have anything more to add to it, I don't think.
Neither do I.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm excited for tomorrow. Yeah, so tomorrow we're really gonna talk, you're gonna talk more about like your yeah, do you wanna say what you wanna do tomorrow?
Yeah, tomorrow is going to be like a deep dive into the mental health side. Like, so today was more of just, I mean, yes, my mental health is the reason that I social isolate, but it's not the reason for all of the things that I do to survive it. Those things are, and so tomorrow is going to be kind of like I'll be sharing more about my mental health journey, and what I'm doing to help that journey through holistic means, natural. And when I say holistic, I mean natural medicine, and pharmaceuticals, and all of the multidisciplinary around ways. So it's not, tomorrow will be a lot about my routine, which it involves, you know, supplements and oils and all of that, but it's also about the other things that I incorporate into that as well. And it's also going to be there so that if people have questions, they can ask privately. There's private chats here that you can send to myself or Amy. And then you can ask questions, mental health questions, or if you're here for a loved one, you can ask questions about how to handle their, different situations that come up with them. And, I'm doing a lot of this is because I want to help support people that are either going through something similar than me or someone that they care about is going through it, so that they have a better understanding and they can actually really support them. So tomorrow we're going to get down into more of the nitty-gritty of how we cope on a day-to-day basis with a mental health problem and what we can do to navigate that side of life. So yeah,
Okay.
I think
Yeah.
that's about it.
Well, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna stop the recording anyway.
Okay.
Yeah.